Hey, thank you for waiting. So we would like to start the event. So welcome to the Japan Pavilion. So we would like now to start the event Tech for Transition. So first, Japan believes that to respond to the gaps revealed by the global stocktake, it is important to not only raise ambition, but also to implement technology and innovation. So the aim of this event is to introduce Japanese technologies that contribute to mitigation and adaptation throughout the world, including the global south. And also in this event, we will be discussing the importance of rulemaking to promote innovation. So first, we will open the event by having the Parliamentary Vice Minister of Economy, Trade and Industry, Mr. Yoshida, make his opening remarks. Please, Mr. Yoshida.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Nobuhiro Yoshida, Parliamentary Vice Minister of Economy, Trade and Industry. Thank you all for gathering here today. And I'm also pleased to welcome Mr. Saud from the UAE, the COP presidency. He will join us here today. It is a great pleasure for me to be able to discuss global issue with him here in the wonderful land of UAE. I will first explain three basic ideas of Japanese government as METI. The first is triple breakthrough. The basic idea of Japan's green transformation is the breakthrough of the three elements of emission reduction, economic growth, and stable energy supply. This concept was shared at the G7 Hiroshima summit. The second is one goal, Vass pathway, for having one goal of net zero. An ordinary transition with Vass pathway is important to achieve it. The importance of this concept was also addressed by COP28 President Dr. Sultan Jaber. The third is solution to the world. Japan accounts for 3% of global emissions, as well as decarbonizing Japan ourselves. We will provide solutions for the remaining 97%. We will contribute to the decarbonization of the world as a whole. The theme of this seminar, transition technology. For example, unlike developed countries, Asian countries are expected to continue growing significantly and increasing in the electricity demand, including the potential of renewable energy. The energy situation is completely different from country to country, using all possible technologies and ordinary energy transition with various and practical pathways is needed to achieve net zero for the world as a whole. Japan ranks third in the world in the term of the account of solar power installed. Japan has made steady progress toward net zero emissions reduction through various measures. Based on this experience, knowledge, and technology, we will contribute to achieving net zero emissions globally. In addition, it is important to have a mechanism in place to spread good technology to the world. It is also important to have a mechanism to properly evaluate the solution provide capability with that in mind. In METI, will promote the environment development and the rule making for the project promotion of decarbonization investment, such as a joint crediting mechanism, JCM, about emissions and transition finance. Today, we expect to hear not only about the technologies and solutions, but also about the challenges and the rule making to achieve net zero across the world. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yoshida. So next, we'll have two global leading companies from Japan, Sumitomo Forestry and Panasonic, make presentations on their technology and rulemaking. So first we will have Mr. Akira Ichikawa, Chairman of the Board of Sumitomo Forestry, present his presentation. Mr. Ichikawa, please.
Thank you for the introduction. My name is Ichikawa. First, I sincerely thanks to organizers and all concerned for this valuable opportunity today at COP28. I want to introduce our company's tropical peatland management as a global climate change mitigation strategy based on the case study of our afforestation project on tropical peatlands in West Kalimantan, Indonesia. I will also present prospects for utilizing AI and remote sensing for the world tropical peatlands. Sorry. First, let me explain the history of our forest management. In 1691, the Sumitomo family opened the Besh copper mine in Shikoku, Japan. Sumitomo Forestry origin was to procure fuel wood for smelting and mine shaft timber for its copper mining activities. However, in the late 19th century, excessive logging and smoke pollution from smelting caused the forest to be severely degraded. Therefore, in 1894, a great reforestation project was initiated by planting more than 2.5 million seedlings annually to restore that degraded forest. As a result of the reforestation plan, the degraded forests have been restored to their natural richness, like center bottom pictures. These past experiences and learning have been remaining at the core of the philosophy of our business operations. Well, here is an introduction to tropical peatlands. Sorry. This one. Okay. Well, here is an introduction to the tropical peatlands. I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm not familiar to operate this one. Well, here is an introduction to the tropical peatlands mentioned in the title. Tropical peatlands are widely distributed in the Amazon in South America, the Congo Basin in Africa, and Indonesia in Southeast Asia. The tropical peatlands of Indonesia, where our plantation is located, are estimated to store 57.4 billion tons of carbon. However, water, which accounts for 90% of the peatlands, has been a significant obstacle to manage for agriculture and forestry. Therefore, common practice is to drain the peatlands and developing trees and plant plantations. However, the organic soil exposed to the atmosphere through drainage becomes highly flammable. And once a peat fire breaks out, it is extremely difficult to extinguish. Tropical peatlands ecosystems are closely linked to the global atmosphere, biological ecosystems, and water cycle. The fire destroys all ecosystem functions and has a significant negative impact on global climate change and human health. I want to explain our forest management in tropical peatlands as an example of our nature-based solution initiatives. We have 3 concessions for forest plantation and together with an adjacent state-designated protection forest, they form a single ecosystem. As one example, we are promoting the conservation network, which links the remaining high conservation value forests in a network of green corridors, calling on local governments and surrounding private companies to prevent the isolation of ecosystems in each area that are home to rare plant and animals. Next, I will explain the stock-based water management technology that we have developed. This model is referred to as the best practice method for peatlands management in Indonesia. The infrastructure such as water canal and dams is shown in this slide. Our practice maintains the groundwater level constantly throughout the year, regardless of dry and rainy seasons. In that sense, CO2 emissions due to peat decompositions can be reduced by more than 50% compared to conventional drainage-based water management and can prevent peat fires. Next, we will discuss big data on peat, which is essential for the spread or proper peatland management worldwide. To properly manage peatlands, we have been collecting peatland data for over 12 years. We proudly say this is the only ground-based big data on peatlands worldwide. However, there are several challenges to collecting such data. Ground surveys have been conducted manually, and planning has been dependent on skilled personnel, which means a high cost and long time are essential to managing more extensive peatlands. As a solution to this problem, we are currently experimenting with remote sensing technology. It makes acquiring data over a wide area possible efficiently. However, ground truth is essential for remote sensing technology to ensure data accuracy. Lack of ground truth results in low accuracy, making it challenging to manage peatlands properly. By adapting methods that takes advantage the respective strengths of satellite, drones, and field surveys, we will acquire data analysis of peatlands over a wide area efficiently and with high accuracy. Next, I will explain our innovative peat management technology using AI and remote sensing technology. Recently, AI can quickly process large amounts of data and achieve more sophisticated problem solving. These data, which have been acquired since the start of our operations, and AI will enable us to develop peatlands management plans, assesses fire risks, and predict CO2 emissions. Here is a simulation of groundwater level estimation using the AI model. Blue means the water table is adequate, and red means the area is dry. This is an example of how the model practice changes in groundwater levels based on the topography, peatland distribution, and precipitation. Switching open and closing close to dam based on the prediction of soil moisture and dryness controls the groundwater level. All simulation enable wide area coverage and further predictions. Lastly, what is important is creating the mechanism for social implementation. Peatland management and social development can only be sustained through the business operations. At Sumitomo Forestry, we are guided by the Sumitomo business spirit to benefit self and benefit others are one and the same. Utilizing the technologies that I introduced today, our goal is to tackle global issues and work with all of you here to reduce CO2 emissions and tackle climate change issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ichikawa. Next, we will have Mr. Yuki Kusumi, President and CEO of Panasonic, present his presentation. Please, Mr. Kusumi.
Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Yuki Kusumi of Panasonic Holdings Corporation. Thank you very much for inviting me to this great occasion. I'm truly honored today to speak about Panasonic Group's approaches to global climate change. Next, please. Firstly, let me give you a brief outline of our company. Since our foundation in 1918, we have continued to fulfill our corporate purpose of achieving an ideal society in both matter and mind. When spiritual peace of mind is combined with a limitless supply of material goods, we can achieve true happiness. This must be the true purpose of our company. Our founder, Konosuke Matsushita, declared this in 1932, and he set forth a 250-year plan to accomplish this lofty goal. Today, our group has 7 pillars of business. Through these businesses, we have been uniting our efforts towards our purpose. Next, please. However, we are facing serious problems that threaten our corporate purpose. We must stop global warming as soon as possible. Otherwise, we cannot pass along this beautiful planet to future generations. Therefore, we regard these issues as the group's top priority. In addition, we must establish with all urgency a healthy circular economy for society. With this sense of crisis, we are fully engaged in our own green transformation actions under the banner of Panasonic Green Impact. Next, please. In a long-term environmental vision, Panasonic Green Impact, we have set the goal of reducing CO2 emissions by more than 300 million tons, or about 1% of the world's total emissions. Specifically, the Own Impact initiatives aims to cut emissions by 110 million tons towards achieving net zero emissions in our own value chains. As we accelerate our Green Impact initiative, we will work to maximize avoided emissions and generate even greater impact by taking up 2 more initiatives. In the Contribution Impact initiative, we aim to further increase avoided emissions by 100 million tons through existing businesses. Also, in the Future Impact initiative, we will reduce another 100 million tons through future businesses backed by new technologies. So now, let me further explain these initiatives. Next, please. First, I will start with our Own Impact initiatives. In our entire value chain, the Scope 1 and 2 based reductions are expected to stay at just 2 million tons. To be honest, achieving net zero emission group-wide is not easy. But this is our promise to society, and we must accomplish this target by 2030 through our utmost efforts. With our Scope 3 based efforts, we will achieve net zero emission by 2050. However, this can become a reality only when energy transformation is fully accelerated in society, including the wider distribution of renewable energy by suppliers. Next, please. Second, let me touch upon our Contribution Impact initiative. To foster energy transformation, we will work closely with our customers and increase avoided emissions by helping to reduce emissions. To this end, we want to replace fossil fuel-powered devices with electrified ones. For example, by expanding the use of EV batteries and air-to-water systems. We will also offer various energy-saving solutions. In addition, we will promote renewable energy by leveraging our advanced hydrogen technologies. In various business settings involving the people's lives, mobility, towns, and supply chains, we will maximize avoided emissions, thus helping to bring about a carbon neutral society as soon as possible. Next, please. Finally, regarding the future impact initiative, here in this Japan pavilion, over there, we are exhibiting our autonomous energy distribution solutions. So please take some time to visit our booth over there. Next, please. Today, this is a global method for calculating the volume of emissions. However, there is no established measure for avoided emissions. Therefore, since last year, Panasonic has joined many discussions on the significance of avoided emissions for society and the need for its standardization in international conferences. To our pleasure, the G7 Hiroshima Leaders Communique was issued this May, clearly expressing the need to encourage corporations to accelerate innovation. We truly expect the concept of avoided emission to be embraced globally. Then, corporations will be encouraged to make greater efforts to maximize avoided emissions. I strongly believe this will drive the world to focus on the energy transformation. Next, please. But to help the decarbonize our society, Panasonic is firmly resolved to maximize avoided emissions in all businesses based on the collaboration with our customers and partners worldwide. Through these GX efforts, Panasonic truly wants to help achieve an ideal society, which our founder envisioned 90 years ago. Next, please. This concludes my presentation today. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kusumi. So next, the next part of this session is a panel discussion on the theme transitioning to a net zero society through technology. Mr. Peter Bakker, WBCSD President and CEO, will be moderating this panel. So please, will the moderator and the panelists please come up to the stage? So, Mr. Bakker, whenever you're ready, please
Yeah.
start.
Well, good morning, everybody. Let me first compliment the UAE on a fabulous COP so far. I've told Mr. Simon Steele that from now on, we expect the COP to be held in beautiful places like this. So we may be back in Dubai very soon. I also want to compliment METI, and thank you, Minister, for joining us this morning. But more than that, I also want to thank METI for the real push to get decarbonization high on the agenda in Japan. And to that extent, I want to thank all three of you for making the long trip to COP28, because having a chairman here and two CEOs of really well-known large Japanese companies is critically important to bring the voice of Japan into the halls that are out here. I have today 6 speaking opportunities. All of them today talk about fast decarbonization of industries. And we all know there is, like the Panasonic presentation showed so clearly, significant amount of CO2 emission coming from industries with a fast need to decarbonize. And there is no better place to start my day talking about decarbonization of industries than in the Japanese pavilion, because Japan, I've always said, houses some of the best engineers in the world. So thank you very much for being here, and thank you for showing us some of the examples of the technology that are out there. So let me start, Ishikawa-san. Thank you very much for your presentation on the peatland management. It's quite incredible to see how much technology is being used in managing the forest that you have. What is the business case for that for you? And how far can technology get us in better management of forests?
You are talking about the peatland forest land management?
Yeah,
or
any forest
in
management.
that
Yeah.
general forest?
General.
Oh, okay. The forest land has a lots of functions, not only environment, function, but also for the building materials. So as you know, the wood has absorbs the CO2 and keep in the materials. So if we utilize the wood product for buildings, it's will contribute to the decarbonization. So to do so, we have to manage properly the forest land. So we have two forest lands. One forest land, simply said, two forest land. One forest land conservation area. For biodiversity, we have to take care of the all biodiversity forest land. But another one is a sustainable management plantation forest land. So forest is one of our resource for materials. If man can properly manage the operation, we can forever utilize as a raw materials. So that's why I think our philosophy to manage the forest lands, we make a zoning, so-called zoning. Which area for conservation, which area for materials. So once we designated the area, we start the conventional logging or operation to economical way. So now in Japan, we have a forest land, 1/800th of acre area of Japan land. But unfortunately, Japanese forest land is a very steepy and not enough logging roads. So in Japan, we are now considering to develop the road construction to make efficiency for logging. So firstly, we have to zoning the forest land, and we have to introduce the new technology to make efficient logging way. That is a economical or business attitude for Sumitomo Forestry. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Kusumi-san, the presentation you made on Panasonic, where you showed that Panasonic has 2.2 million tons of scope 1 and 2 emissions, but through 3 layers, I think you said between 300 and 400 million tons of emission reduction that you are going to facilitate. How much of the technology that you're going to need for that enormous decarbonization is already economically viable? Or because when I walk around the COP, I always hear we have the solutions, but either the economic case doesn't work or the policy case isn't in place. But how easy is this for you?
Actually, it's very challenging because from economical viewpoint, for example, even I said in the presentations for scope 3 of our supply chain. So even if we will provide a lot of product, which is the energy consumption is very low, still it consumes the electricity. In that sense, so the electricity delivered to the home or even the town is based on thermal power generation. We cannot achieve the net zero in scope 3. So the more and more acceleration at the national level and also as an infrastructure or across the nations, such rule making is necessary from the financial viewpoint.
Great, thank you. Mr. Takao-san, you represent JEPLAN. I don't know if everybody knows what JEPLAN is. Maybe say a few words about the company and then how can technology help you in decarbonizing?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Masaki from JEPLAN. JEPLAN is a Japanese startup company. And past 10 years, we developed our original PET plastic recycling technology. So we can contribute to the circulation of the plastic materials such as plastic bottle and also polyester fibers. So this is our technology. But I want to say that, okay, based on our technology, we can contribute to CO2 reduction by our product. But more importantly, so we are three company is not the energy company, but we have a product. Through the product, we can involve the consumers to their circulation or the CO2 reduction action. So this is a very important point for us, I think.
Thank you. Mr. Ishikawa-san, a slightly different question than you may have prepared, but if I may try. I was super impressed by the example you gave on using artificial intelligence to forecast what the groundwater levels. Is that a technology that we could use wider in the world to map and forecast the impacts of climate change on agriculture and other land-based projects? Because one of the conclusions that I've drawn in the last few days, very few companies are able to assess the physical risk that climate change may pose them to in their supply chains. But could technology like yours, could that help companies? And if so, would Forestry, Sumitomo Forestry become a technology company?
Thank you very much. Yeah, regarding the peatland, that area of peatland, land area is 1/250th of total land globally. So it's a big number. And as I mentioned, peatland function is not only storing the CO2, other biodiversity, and also the worldwide water cycle as a resource for the water, and also the livelihood areas. So such big peatland. So we really consider to utilize our technology to control, to manage the operations. But to do so, as I mentioned, so in the first, we use manpower, only manpower, to walk around, over 1,800 kilometers and by manually, check that, collected the data. It takes costly and very long times. So now we like to utilize, such satellite or drones and also AI. So we are now developing the technologies. And actually the topographic map is very important. We contrast 50 centimeter base. It's really details. So if we can make that map, so we can make proper development. We can develop properly over draining, canals and also the filters. So that's our technology. We like to spread out this technology worldwide.
And could you use it for agriculture as well, you think?
I think so. Yes, because peatland, some peatlands used for the oil palm plantation, also some agriculture use. Yes, we can utilize that technology.
Well, I'm not responsible for Sumitomo Forestry strategy, but I would think you have a massive business opportunity if that technology can be used in agriculture in the world, because the companies I talk to do not have the solutions that I think you have. So well done. Kusumi-san, of all the technologies that you have in development, which one do you think will have the biggest impact? And how can we make sure we really focus on the biggest impact areas because we need to we only have 6 years if we want to keep 1.5 degrees within reach, as Dr. Sultan has said in the main room.
Very difficult to answer question because we have lots of the business area. So for each business area, we have technologies. For example, the perovskite, the solar cell, and also the generating hydrogen, and with a very, very good efficiency. And also even the battery, lithium-ion battery, we have lots of room for the further enhancement. So these will provides the more contribution for the avoided emissions.
Mr. Takao-san, which technology gives you the most hope?
Oh, it's also a difficult question. There are so many areas, but I think that for me, that circulation, the contribution for the circular economy is very, very important point. Of course, renewable energy technology offer important, but the contribution for the circular economy, circulation recycling is also important because we can involve the consumer. So we have a product and we can make a product for using the recycled material. And this T-shirt made of the recycled material, so we can involve the consumer. So very, very also important point, I think.
So your main aim is to progress the circular economy. Is that what you're saying? And can we do that at economically viable levels yet?
Yes, good question. But so far, sometimes it's a little bit difficult, but I believe in the future, the consumer will accept this business model, I believe.
That brings me to a question to you, Kusumi-san. I know in the Japanese culture, there is a deep belief that technology can solve a lot of man's challenges, but in other parts of the world, we also believe that unless we bring consumers along and we are able to change people's behavior, we will not make it. We can provide new technologies, but if nobody wants to buy it, so what is your view on how to change consumer behavior?
Very good question. And let me tell you about my very recent experience. So I introduced the solar power in my house, and also the battery to store the electricity generated by the solar. And the important thing is for each room's the wiring. So each room for the energy consumption is displayed on my screen. Then, because I invested a lot for the solar panel, so before the introduction of solar panel, I have the very how can I say, I don't care how much electricity is consumed in my house. However, once visualized, I would like to switch off when the electricity is not necessary. For such visualization is very effective to change the mindset of the people. So we would like to deliver such a product more. For example, Sumitomo林業san's channel.
No, it's a good point. I think data will help a lot. In
the visualization of the data is very important.
Yeah.
And you will be the beneficial from the economical viewpoint, even for the end consumers, or even for the business people. For such thing will be helpful to change the people's mindset.
Yeah. Ishikawa-san, one of the big conversations in the COP, it was yesterday in the main hall, is around nature-based solutions and voluntary carbon markets. So how can we use nature to sequester, to store carbon? And forest management has a key role to play there. What are your views on that? Is the carbon market something that you find important? Yeah, the sequestration of carbon in nature.
Yes, I think we need some incentive because natural resource is like Panasonic product, easy to show the functions, also the technologies. But nature resource, we can't show anything. We can show such technology. Yeah, nature itself doesn't show any technologies and also the functions. But we have to protect the nature. So to do so, we like to have some evaluated evaluation method, such as carbon credit or whatever. But there is no international, common standards yet. So that's very important to keep talk about that part.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I mean, I think Japan has done tremendous work in the proposing the avoided emissions, which is going to be a critical language in the industrial decarbonization, but in the land-based industries, agriculture, forestry, and the likes, we really need carbon markets, carbon credits in international standard and high standards for certification. A question to all three of you. The absolute unique thing about the COP, and in particular this COP, again, thanks to the wisdom of Dr. Sultan to invite business leaders into the meetings, is that we have real opportunities to talk to policymakers from any country, even the COP presidency, to make proposals on what are the technologies that could really help, but also what are the policy asks that we need to make those technologies scale fast. So if you had one question you could ask to Dr. Sultan, what would it be? Make notes. So Ishikawa-san, you can ask one question to Dr. Sultan. What would you ask him? What should he do for you to make your technology scale fast?
So to Sultan, how we request or something? You ask me that?
Any question? What can Dr. Sultan do to make your technology grow faster? Is there anything you would like him to do for you?
Yes. So this country, I'm first time to visit Dubai. So I looked at the cities and buildings, but unfortunately, I don't see not so much wood product and also greenery. So if, as I mentioned, wood product or greenery is a nature-based.
Make note, wooden buildings in Dubai.
Yeah, wooden building and greens, yes.
Kusumi-san, what would you ask Dr. Sultan if you had the opportunity?
In my case, this is second time to visit the UAE, and we have some businesses in the UAE, including the business with the Emirates and also for the avionics system and also inflight entertainment. And also there's some home appliances, but my home appliance business is not so huge. So I would like to ask you what is your expectation to Panasonic? What you would like us to bring technologies or products? That's what I would like to know.
Great, thank you. And Takao-san, same question.
Yeah. Okay, according to my understanding, UAE is a rich country because of the oil sales. So we are a startup companies. Startup company try to develop new technology, even they're sustainable. So can you invest in Japanese startup companies for the sustainable technology development?
Thank you very much. I think we're coming to the time of the panel, but I just want to say 5 years ago, I would come to COPs and then I would have lunch with a delegation of Kedanren, and they would always ask me not to be ambitious in the COP. And I would just want to compliment the Japanese ministry as well as the Japanese business leaders for the enormous change that you have been able to achieve and thinking in solutions. And most of all, I want to thank you all for coming here and speaking English, because I think and I know from my many trips in Japan that is not an easy task for you to express yourself in English, but it's truly important that we speak one language, that we create solutions together, and that we decarbonize the world very fast. So thank you very much. And an applause for the panel, please.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Thank you to the moderator and the panelists. Now, we will take a photo with all the presenters. So please, all the presenters, please come up to the stage. Hey, thank you very much. So please step down and return to your seats. So we will now go on to the next part of our event. So we will have presentations from international organizations. At this year's G7, which Japan chaired, IEA and IRENA provided us with a wide range of analysis on decarbonization of the energy sector. So we have invited them today to provide us with their insight. So first, we would like to have Mr. Roland Roesch from IRENA, Acting Director, Innovation and Technology. Please, Mr. Roesch.
Yes, good morning. Thanks for having me here on behalf of the International Renewable Energy Agency. Just to say, we are a governmental organization with 169 member countries, and we supported Japan in their presidency this year related to their G7 presidency. So thank you very much for the kind introduction. I would like to speak about IRENA's veto to the World Energy Transition Outlook 2023. The IRENA veto stresses that the international community is off track with regards to achieving a 1.5 degrees scenario by 2030. There is significant amount of scaling up in terms of regulatory frameworks, investments, and skills with the renewable energy space, which will be needed to achieve this target as soon as possible. Despite the challenges, renewables are gaining increasing momentum in the theater of the energy transition. In 2022, some almost 300 gigawatt of renewables were added globally, accounting for 8.3% of new capacity compared to 70% share combined for fossil fuels and nuclear additions. Both the volume and the share of renewables need to grow substantially, which is both technically feasible and economically viable. Offshore wind is increasingly playing a leading role to catalyze the energy transition, with a total global capacity reaching 63.2 gigawatt fixed and floating in 2022. This means a 20-fold increase since 2010. The global weighted average levelized cost of electricity of offshore wind declined by an amazing 59% between 2010 and 2022, in real terms, from 90.7 US dollar cent per kilowatt hour to 8.1 US dollar cent per kilowatt hour. However, in 2022, there was a 2% increase year on year. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Japan has been at the forefront of investigating innovations and new technologies to increase offshore wind deployment to reach our international climate commitments. It has thus been a pleasure as IRENA to work for the Japanese G7 presidency on floating offshore and clean hydrogen pathways, and be given the opportunity to IRENA to present the findings of the floating offshore wind report to this esteemed audience today. In April 2023, the G7 under the Japanese presidency set a big new collective target for solar power and offshore wind capacity and agreed to speed up renewable energy development, which I find was an amazing result and outcome of this G7. The pledge is to collectively increase offshore wind capacity to 150 gigawatt by 2030 and solar generation capacity to 1 terawatt on the G7. Japan, furthermore, has a 60 gigawatt offshore wind target until 2050. Offshore wind has become competitive for the following reasons: growing developer experience, greater product standardization, manufacturing industrialization, regional manufacturing and service hubs, and economies of scale have all contributed to cost declines. These decreases have also been facilitated by clear policies on deployment and, in some cases, manufacturing that have further supported this important for the energy transition, so important this growth. Despite positive trends for offshore wind, more investments, increasing supply chain resilience, and project deployment will be required to meet offshore wind projections of a 494 gigawatt and 2,465 gigawatt by 2030 and 2050, respectively, that are needed to comply with IRENA, the 1.5 degree scenario. So by 2030, 494 gigawatt, and by 2050, 2,465 gigawatt, according to IRENA's World Energy Transition Outlook. Of that number, floating offshore could make up to 50 gigawatt and 60 gigawatt then in 2050, respectively, and supply 10%, respectively 25% of the global offshore wind electricity needs in 2030 and 2050 then, respectively. Sorry. Yeah. Let's now look in how floating offshore in details and its contribution to scale up of capacities. Industry experts do believe that from 2030 onwards, floating wind projects will take a meteoric rise. Floating offshore wind turbines have the potential to unlock deep water areas with higher wind capacities, as well as prevent further congestion utilization of scarce coastline spaces. The global technical potential for floating offshore wind is 13 terawatt. Around 200 megawatt of floating wind projects have been installed only so far, which accounts for only 0.1% of global onshore and offshore installations. Today, 1% of newly built offshore projects are floating based. The leading countries in total floating wind installations are the United Kingdom, Portugal, Japan, Norway, and France. The cumulative global capacity for floating wind is expected to reach 285 megawatt in 2023 from 205 megawatt in 2022, which corresponds to an increase of 40% from last year to this year. IRENA coast data reveal that floating offshore wind is roughly 10 times more expensive compared to its fixed counterpart. So 10 times more expensive as the fixed foundations. In consultation with floating wind expert, it is expected that the global pipeline of floating offshore wind projects will continue to grow in the coming years, reaching 2 to 3 gigawatts by 2030, with most of the project located in Europe, the US, Japan, and South Korea. With regard to infrastructure, high voltage direct current transmission is the preferred option over the high voltage alternating current, so the HVAC transmission lines. This is to avoid reactive resistance caused by long grid connections, both offshore and onshore. Ports are a bottleneck in setting up this infrastructure needed for the offshore wind floating foundations. Currently, many markets lack the necessary ports and infrastructure to support assembly of large foundation and blades associated with floating wind technologies. We also found that pump storage is the most established storage option that leverages the hydrostatic effect of water at large depths to offer storage capacity. We furthermore investigated sustainability aspects of floating offshore. The species displacement or loss is significantly lower with floating offshore than with fixed foundations. Can cause propagation of this invasive species. In general, in further depths, the environmental impacts are significantly muted when compared to shallower environments. I would like to close here and thank you all, but especially the Ministry for Economic Trade and Industry of Japan for this opportunity to speak here at this important event, and also for the opportunity to IRENA to support their presidency to the G7 this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Roesch. So next, we will have IEA make their presentation. So So Ms. Tiffany Vass, please.
Can you hear me now? Great. Good morning, everyone. And I really want to thank to Japan and to METI for inviting the IEA here to speak today. I wanted to start off by sending our deep regrets from Dr. Timur Gul, who's our Chief Energy Technology Officer, who was meant to be here today. And he unfortunately wasn't able to travel to Dubai at the last minute. And so I'm from his team and going to be presenting on behalf of him some of the work that we've been doing with Japan under the G7 presidency. And I can say that at the IEA, we really value the longstanding relationship we have with METI, and in particular, the work this current year under the G7 presidency. And so today I'm going to be sharing a few illustrative examples of the work that we've done. And I'll be fairly brief, but I want to invite you all to please see on our website. All of these reports are freely available if you're wanting to learn more. And so these various reports and analysis that we've been doing have illustrated that at the IEA, we always talk about not the clean energy transition, but rather clean energy transitions, plural. And this is because there's a wide variety of different technologies that we need to advance the transition. And the pathways are different for every country and every regional circumstances. And this is something that we really take into account in our analysis at IEA. And so our first illustrative example is a report that we did with the presidency on thermal power plants and their role for helping to ensure a flexibility of grids when we're having high amounts of variable renewable energy. And so this is in particular when we're getting to over 70% of renewable energy on the grid. And so what we can see there is that the role of thermal power plants within this is quite dependent on climate conditions. And so when we're looking at just the annual average role of thermal power plants in a grid, it's about 5 to 15%. So we can see that on the left-hand graph. But then when we start to look at flexibility services, the role of thermal power plants increases quite considerably. So when we're looking at short duration services, thermal power plants will provide about 20 to 25% of these flexibility services, so considerably more. We also see a key role for batteries to provide complementarity to solar energy, particularly in tropical and arid regions. When we move to the far right and look at long-term seasonal variation, there's a really key role here for existing sources of thermal and hydropower. And this provides about 2/3 of seasonal variability services. This is when there's sort of unexpected or kind of peak climatic events. So there's really a key role there. I would now go to the second example, which is the work that we've been doing with Japan under the industrial decarbonization agenda. And so this agenda was something that was put forward in 2021 by the US and the UK. And at the IEA, we worked in 2022 with the German presidency, and then took this further again this current year with the Japan presidency. And we really welcome the collaboration there. And so something that we've seen through the analysis we've done in both years is that there are different starting points in the industry transition. And so just to give one example, for Japan, there's about 75% of current production uses oxygen-blown furnaces in the final step of steelmaking. This contrasts, for example, to 30% in the US. And the key aspect there is related to scrap availability. So this is kind of existing circumstances that are just a different starting point. And we really need to take this into consideration when we're looking at the transition. And not only do we need to take into account the different starting points, but also the different pathways and potential endpoints to the transition. So we can see from here in the global transition of the steel and cement sector, the G7 moves ahead of the rest of the world. But when we move towards 2050, the whole world catches up. This is in our IEA's near zero or net zero emissions by 2050 scenario. But we can see then at the end point, there's different circumstances for different countries. So they might be using different technologies. So in the steel sector, for example, some might be using carbon capture and storage, others might be using electrolytic hydrogen, others might be using direct electrification. There's different pathways that can be appropriate to these different circumstances. And so then in our analysis on enabling mechanisms, we take this into account. So we've developed under this decarbonization agenda, a toolbox of policy options that governments can choose from to tackle the different challenges of the industry sector. And what we see is that there's probably a mix of different policies that will be needed to advance the transition, but there is really no one silver bullet solution. We don't need to have every government putting in place one particular policy, but rather from these various different options, governments can pick which works best for their circumstances. We also took into account this importance of technology neutrality in definitions that we established for the industry sector. So we put forward proposals for definitions for both low emission and near zero emission steel and cement. And this is to the foundation of a number of the enabling mechanisms in the toolbox. So for example, in private or public procurement, if someone is looking to purchase low emission or near zero emission steel, what does that mean? But when we developed these definitions, we didn't say this technology is in or this technology is out. Rather, we said, if you can achieve this particular emission threshold, then you would be considered near zero emission steel, because we recognize the different pathways needed there. And so we're continuing to take this work forward in the IEA's Working Party on Industrial Decarbonization that was established this year under our Committee for Energy Research and Technology. And we're really glad to have a representative from METI, Mrs. Motoko Agawa-san, who is one of our vice chairs there. So really happy to keep taking forward that collaboration on definitions, on measurement methodologies, and on data collection. I would end just by mentioning two upcoming reports that we have that are also in collaboration with the G7 presidency, looking at both the short-term and long-term solutions for the transition. So the first one is on the evolution of energy efficiency policy. And its key findings are that we need a wide range of technologies to enable energy efficiency. And we see moving policy in this area. There's likely to be a key role for strong standards. And it's really important that we push these technologies today because they're already available and they can be a key to achieving short-term emission reductions. And finally, another report we have coming out this month is on e-fuels. And these are a new developing technology that can be key for hard to abate sectors, such as in the aviation sector or for use as chemical feedstocks. These can be complementary to other technologies that are being explored, such as bioenergy-based fuels, and they show another area where diversification is key and a route to energy security. And with that, I'll close and thank you again for having the IEA here today.
Thank you, thank you, Ms. Voss. So we come to the last session of this event, which is the Japan and UAE session. So Japan, which holds the G7 presidency, and the UAE, which holds the COP28 presidency, are promoting bilateral cooperation on cutting-edge technologies through schemes such as the Japan-UAE Coordination Scheme for Advanced Technology, or JUCAT in short. So we will first like to present a good example of such a collaboration. So so just an introduction. So JEPLAN, a Japanese startup company that was a panelist right there, and Rebound, a UAE company, have signed a strategic cooperation agreement regarding the construction of a pet chemical recycling pilot plant in the UAE. So this agreement will expand aims to expand the plastic resource recycling business in the UAE, and also it will contribute to the reduction of CO2 emissions in the scope 3 of petrochemical products. So now I would like to present Mr. Takao, CEO of JEPLAN, and CFO, Mr. Alvin of Rebound. Please come up to the stage. So we will have the two gentlemen give a brief comment regarding their agreement.
Okay. Thank you very much for everyone. So I would like to announce our collaboration with Rebound. And we are planning to establish a new chemical recycle plant for PET in UAE. So we already signed the strategic agreement with the Rebound. So I'm very honored to announce it here today. Thank you very much.
Hello, hi everyone. My name is Alvin Pereira. I'm the finance director for Rebound. Pretty excited to be here and be part of this tri-party agreement to set up a new PET chemical recycling plant very soon in the UAE. So Rebound is a facilitator for setting up this plant. We are a global B2B online recycled plastics platform. Plus we have a solutions arm. So basically we try to facilitate this setting up of the plant using our advisory services as even facilitating the trades for the feedstock requirement for this particular plant in the UAE.
Sorry. Thank you very much. So now we will have a photo session with Parliamentary Vice Minister, Mr. Yoshida. So please, Mr. Yoshida, come up to the stage. So please present your agreements, and for everyone, please give a big round of applause for them and feel free to take pictures. Thank you. Thank you very much. So lastly, last but not least, we will have the UAE government, Mr. Saud Al-Nui, head of diplomatic engagement, Asian affairs of COP28 office, make a speech. So please, Mr. Al-Nui.
Excellency Vice Minister Yoshida Nobuhiro, Excellencies, distinguished guests, it's truly an honor and a privilege for me to be here. I wanted to express, what a wonderful time it has been working closely with Japan. I've actually been working with Japan for the past 12 years. First, during my time at the Minister of State office, and then during my time at Expo 2020 Dubai as the country manager. And just to say that Japan had one of the most wonderful pavilions during that time, and now for COP28. I've been to Japan many times this year, and I've actually been to Japan many times in the past, and I actually used to live there. And I attended the G7 Ministerial. I've participated in the Japan-Brazil dialogue, and I've also been part of the Tokyo GX Week. And I was very impressed with the leadership that Japan was able to demonstrate to the rest of the world. 2023 has been a unique year for the Asia region. We have had one of the most important presidencies of the G7, the G20, and now COP28. And we have demonstrated to the world a strong united message to combat climate change. And now it's time for us to convert these messages into tangible and realistic actions towards the greening of our economies. Excellencies, Japan, India, and the UAE have always been strategic partners. We have built a relationship founded on mutual respect and trust. And this is the time for us to even work closer with each other towards our common goal, which is to deliver an ambitious decision on the global stocktake, one that restores faith in the multilateral process, one that safeguards the planet and drives sustainable economic development for generations to come. It is essential that we keep this momentum moving forward in a manner that enhances cooperation and leaves no one behind. The global stocktake must set the foundation to support our common goal of achieving net zero, not only by raising ambition, but also by developing and promoting advanced technologies in key sectors such as renewables, hydrogen, energy efficiency, and decarbonization, just like what was mentioned today. These innovations must be cross-cutting and contribute across all sectors, while also raising ambitions in sustainable economic development, because the prosperity of people has to be the center of our advancement. I am pleased to say that hydrogen has been a key area that the three presidencies have showed leadership on. Allow me to take this opportunity to thank Japan for supporting the COP28's presidency's initiative on mutual recognition of certification schemes for hydrogen. My friends, these are the kind of ambitions and attitude that we need to have if we are to keep 1.5 within reach. A united message to continue working closely together, not only by raising ambition, but also by developing and promoting advanced technologies. To conclude, let's continue working together to create an environment that nurtures and supports innovation through collaboration. Continue our open dialogues and commit to a more resilient and sustainable future. With this mindset, we can not only pave the way for the future where technology advances our societies, but it also safeguards our planet for future and coming generations. Thank you.